moments, so the formula is this is a force times distance. Okay? Because it is the tendency of what? Tendency to produce spin, like what I've shown you with my arm, right? So this is the tendency to give an object a spin when force is applied. Okay? So that's why there's a force involved and also the distance from the reference point. So that determines the moment. Okay? Okay. So like what we've pointed out also earlier, so the outstanding difference between concurrent and parallel, so this one and this one. So the position for the concurrent is already known, which is usually at the point where they meet or at the origin. While for the parallel forces, the resultant is to be determined, okay, using summation of moments, right? While to determine the R or the magnitude, so we have to select some convenient point O as the moment center, or that O could be your reference point, either A, B, or whatever the point in either in the system or on the figure is. Okay? So before we do some more computations, so let's look at this first. So resultant of distributed load. So distributed loads are also parallel forces. Okay? So when we say distributed load, an example of this or a possible na illustration is that, for example, on this beam, you have a rectangular load like this. Okay? So this distributed load could be some, in terms of real world representation, it could be, for example, a big object like a bus, for example, that has no wheels. Okay? Because if it has wheels, so the force will be concentrated on the wheels. So for example, so your bus lies flat on the surface. So all of the force of the bus is distributed to the ground or to the surface it is lying. Okay, so that's one example application. Or for example, this is a big block of cement or a building. Okay, a flat building. So the load of the building or the weight of the building is what? It's not technically concentrated on one point only. Okay, so it is what? Distributed. But if we want to represent it for computational purposes, we have to determine the resultant of that parallel forces on the distributed load and the position. Okay, because take note, parallel forces, we need to determine also the position where it is being concentrated or where it will be concentrated. Okay, so the resultant of distributed load is equal to the area of the load diagram. So you have to determine the load diagram or be familiar with the load diagram. So take note, you're going to solve for an area. Okay? Because that is somewhat like the summation of the parallel forces. Okay? How about the position? It is acting at the centroid of that area. So for example, given a rectangle like this, or a parallelogram, you will need to determine the centroid of that area. So for a rectangle, it's located usually at the center. So by center, we mean half of the length. Okay, so that is the centroid for your rectangular load. What about for a triangular load? For a triangular load, this is sometimes tricky because depending on your reference point here or here, okay, your answer may vary. But for you to have a better understanding or not get confused, okay? So the centroid for a triangular load like this one is you have your length, or your base, so we will call it length here, and your width here is your height also, right? Equivalent to the height. Now, your centroid lies on the point, on the position that is 1/3 of the length from the height. Okay? So 1/3 of the length from the height, or from the highest point of the height of the triangle. Okay? So this position from here, so that is 1/3 of the length. Or it can also be 2/3 of the length. So 2/3 of the length, okay, from the lowest point of the height, which is on the other side, or near one of the vertices of the triangle. Okay? So it's not technically on the center. Okay? So again, 1/3 of the length from the highest point of the height here, or 2/3 of the length from the lowest point. So that it's easy to remember for you. Okay, so that's for the position, and then for the area, for the resultant, it's still the area. So you have to be familiar with what areas of polygons, of course, especially rectangle, triangle, the more common ones. Okay, but what about for a trapezoidal load? For a trapezoidal load, this also gets tricky because you will have to dissect it into two parts: a rectangular area and a triangular area. Okay? So you have to resolve the trapezoid into two figures, rectangle and a triangle. Okay? So for the resultant, so you'll have an F1 and an F2. So F1 is for the rectangular part, F2 is for the triangle part. So the resultant is what? So F1 plus F2. Okay? How about the position? So for the position, since it's not directly given, what is the position for the centroid of the trapezoid? Okay? So you can get the centroids of those dissected shapes. So for the rectangle part, or the rectangular loads, so the center is of course half of the length. While for triangular load, so you will apply this. Okay? So they will not have the same centroid. The rectangular and the triangular load of your trapezoidal total load. Okay? So again, your resultant is F1 plus F2. But the position, you will have to note F1 and F2. So you'll have to break it down into two parts for the position. Okay? So these are the formulas. I'm sure this should be familiar with you. The area of a rectangle. So this is also the resultant. So for a rectangle, you have base times height. So the base becomes the length here. And then the height is your width, right? So for triangle, so the area is, of course, half of, right? Half of a rectangle, something like that. So that's why it's 1/2 base times height, or 1/2 width times length. Okay? So let's have an example here of a computation. So I'll just discuss some computations mentioned here. So you can follow, you can try again on your own, no? And I will also leave you some that you can try on your own. No? Although the solutions will also be shown here, so you can screenshot or have it as a guide. But make sure to practice also. No, it's not enough that just because the solutions are given doesn't mean that they will be exactly like that during the exams or assessments. Okay, so you should still practice because the values might be different, or the figures or the positions, the directions. Okay, So you should be familiar with those. Okay, so I have an example here. Determine the resultant of the parallel force system acting on the bar AB, as shown in the figure. Okay, so you have pounds as your unit of force and feet as a unit of your distance. So take note, this time we have units. So make sure your units are well uh, mentioned on your solution, especially in the final answers. Okay, so to determine the resultant of the parallel force system acting on the bar AB, so it's not specified which point should you reference. So usually we do, if it's not mentioned, so we do it with point A. Okay, so we do it with point A. So again, we need two solutions here. The first one is for the resultant. The other one is for the position. So that's the purpose of the summation of moments. Okay, so we do first the magnitude and direction actually. Since we're dealing with parallel forces here, again, it's only usually vertical or horizontal. So our resultant will be the summation of forces y, since we're dealing with vertical forces here, right? Also, we will still follow the sign convention. Downward forces, negative. Upward forces, positive. Now, for the moments, since, once again, moments will give the tendency to what? To rotate. So we will have also a sign convention. So for clockwise rotation like this, so we will denote that as the positive. And then for moments or forces that will incite a counterclockwise movement, so we'll give that a negative sign. Okay? So I hope you're still familiar with that from your physics. So let's do this first. So the resultant is the summation forces y. So it's simple. You just need to note of the forces and their direction. So you have 20 pounds going down, negative. 10 pounds going down, negative also. 30 pounds up, positive. And 40 pounds down, negative. Okay? So that is, uh, you just have to get the sum. Right? So the resultant sum is negative 40 pounds. So again, the sign convention is for the direction, but on your final answer, you will still write the magnitude or the absolute value. So that's 40 pounds downward. This is your magnitude. Okay, now, magnitude and direction actually. The direction is stated already. Now, what about the position? Okay. So for the position, again, it's not specified. So we're going to assume the position will be from point A. Okay. So we will do the summation of the moments at point A. Okay. Summation of moments at point A. So again, this is equal to the summation of the forces times the distance. Okay, force times distance. In reference, take note the distance here is in reference to A. Okay, so let's try that. The summation of forces times distance. So this is also equal to your, as it was mentioned here, it's also equal to the total. Okay, meaning your resultant times also the distance or its position. This is what is required. Okay, the position of your magnitude. All right, so that is the total moment also. So this is what we'll be solving. Okay, so summation of moments. So first we have the 20 pound acting on point A itself. Okay, so if we ask for the distance, what is the distance of the 20-pound force from point A? Since it's acting on itself, it's usually 0. Okay, so although it's okay for you to not write it, that's fine with me. But to avoid confusion, you should also write or still write this with the distance being 0. So just know that this will only cancel out or zero out. And then next one we have the 10-pound force. Now, it's already written here that it's plus, but how do you know that it should be plus or minus? So again, you will look at our sign convention, and then you will also look at the force and the bar, okay, where it is acting. Now, try to imagine a downward force. This is your fulcrum or what? That's right. So this is your point. So if you push down the bar at this point on the 10-pound point or force, so what will be the tendency of your bar? So will it rotate counterclockwise or clockwise? So the answer here is if you imagine it will uh, the technique here is to extend the arrow. Okay, extend the arrow and curl it towards your point so that you will know. Okay, what is the direction of your spin or your rotation? So from here, this rotation is counterclockwise, so that's positive. Okay, so that's the technique there. So you try to extend the arrow and then curl it toward or curve it towards your fulcrum here or your point of reference. Okay, so that's why it's positive. Okay, so that's force times the distance. So the force is 10 times the distance from A is 2 feet. All right, next one, you have the 30-pound force. So again, try to extend the arrow and then curl it towards your reference point. So what will be this tendency? This is counter clockwise. That's why it's negative. And then the force is 30 pounds, so 30 times the distance. So I hope you're familiar with distance analysis. So don't get confused and write 3 feet here. No, we're not referencing from 10 pounds. We're referencing from A. So you should get the total distance from A. So that's 2 plus 3. So that's 5. I hope that's clear. And then the last one. So we have 4 forces here. 40 pounds. So again, extend the arrow, curl it towards the reference point. Simple as that. So this is also clockwise. So positive. So 40. And then the distance from A. So the total distance here is 8. Okay, so you'll get here actually the summation of the moments. Sorry, summation of the. That's right. Summation of the moments, which is 190. Okay, so this is 190 pound 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 feet. Okay, this is the unit. Okay, so it wasn't mentioned right away. So pound feet. So you need that. What do you need is the distance. No, and you already have your 40 pounds here. So you know that the pounds will cancel out, okay, when you divide. And what will be left is the unit of feet. So that's 190 divided by 40. So it will give you 4.75 feet. No need to include from point A because you just need to label it as D sub A. Okay, D sub A. Meaning that is the distance from A. Okay, so no need to include any more words here. So just 4.75 feet, but just make sure your variable or your designation is D sub A. If it's only D, I might get confused. Where did you compute this? So you might have referenced this from B. Okay. Now if we plot it, okay, if we plot the resultant force here on the figure on the bar, right? So you might be asked to draw that also. So if we were to draw it on the bar, it would look something like this. So 4.75 from A is around almost at 5, right? So somewhere around here. Okay. So this is your resultant going downward, right? This is your resultant. Okay. With the position of 4.75 from A and going downward. All right. So far, are you following how we get the resultant? So again, if we're dealing with the resultant of parallel forces, we need magnitude, direction, and position. So don't forget those three. So if it's incomplete, so you might not receive full marks or full points. Okay. Let's do another one. Okay. So parallel force system acts on the lever shown in the figure. So this is the lever. So again, there is an obvious point of reference here, which is point A. This is a pin support. So determine the magnitude and position of the resultant. So the direction isn't mentioned, but it's automatic, or it should be automatic, automatically included when you solve the magnitude. Okay, so take note of that, huh? So again, we're dealing with vertical forces, so we only need summation forces y, right? So follow sign convention. We have here 30 downward, so negative 30, 60 downward, negative 60, 20 upward, positive 20, and 40 downward, negative 40. So you'll have 110 pounds or 110 pounds going down because it's negative. Okay. Now for the summation of moments, which is this will be your working equation here. Summation of moments at A is equal to R times D. Where in your R, we already solved. So the D is missing. Okay, so to solve this, we get the summation of the moments, where summation of moments are summation of the forces times the distance. So forces acting on the beam times their distance with respect to A. Okay, so let's try. So 30, why is it positive? Again, extend the arrow or the line of force of your given and curve it towards the support or the point of reference. So this is obviously clockwise, positive. And then for the position, 30 pounds, so that's 2 feet. Plus 60, so where's that? This one, also down. Again, extend and curve to positive. So that is 60 times how far is it from point A? So that is 5 feet. And then minus 20. So why is it minus? Because when you extend this, it will give you a counter clockwise direction. So 20, negative 20. And then distance from A, so 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 7. And then finally, we have the 40 pound. Again, extend and curve. Okay, clockwise. And the total distance from A is 11. So for a total of 660 pound feet, right? So since we already have our magnitude R, we only need the D. Okay? So we only need to divide, right? To solve for D or shift solve. If you're already tired of doing all the algebra from DE, okay, you can just shift solve here. Don't worry, I won't judge you. Okay, but if you can do some more algebra, it's a healthy practice to still do your algebra even here, right? So some cross multiplication, right, division. Okay, so we have here 660 over 110 equals 6 feet. All right. So again, no, if you want to write this, so that's fine with me. So if not, just make sure to again label it here or even here from here. Okay? Because you know that it's gonna be referenced at point A anyway. All right? So that's how I will also know that you solve it from the A reference. So there might be another support here. Let's say there was a roller here. So this is point B. Okay? So I never know, you might have solved this from B, right? So just to be sure, so you can also put D sub A here. Okay? Okay, so now this time let's do distributed load. So for distributed load, so again, so the resultant will be the area, right, of your figure or the area of the distributed load. So now we have a trapezoidal here. So we will need to what? Do it in two sections, the triangle one and the rectangle one. So for F1, okay, for F1 you have base times height. So your base here is your 6 meters, okay? And then your height is your 220, is that right? Okay. So 220 Newton per meter. Okay? And that's going downward, so that's negative. So that is 1,320 or 1,320 going downward. Alright? So now for your F2, okay, so this one is a bit tricky because you're considering this triangle wherein the maximum height, your force is 890. But take note, you already took the rectangular part, so you'll have to subtract the 220 from the 890. Okay, so I hope that's clear to you. So your after is a triangle, 1/2 base times height. So again, your base will be, although I think this might be confusing because this is obviously base and this is height, right? So yeah. So but I think it got inverted here. But anyway, as long as you understand that this is this is base, this is height, and what you need to consider here, so that's fine. Okay. So 890 minus 220, so it's this part. Okay, this is what's left. 890 minus 220. Right? And then times 6, your the length of your base, and then times 1/2. Okay? So you'll have negative 2010 or 2010. There should be a unit here. Okay, don't forget put put the units there. 2010 going down or downward. So it's obviously at the downward direction anyway. Okay? Now, now you have your F1 and F2. So like we said, your resultant is the summation of the forces or F1 plus F2 in this scenario. So you'll have negative 1,320 minus 2010. Okay? So we added that. So your resultant is 3,230 newtons going down, of course, obviously. Right? So now you have your magnitude, R. Next, magnitude and direction, actually. Next one, so we need to determine the distance. Okay, or where is it acting, this resultant? Okay, if we were to concentrate the loads, where will it act? Right? So for your summation of moments, okay, summation of moments equals RD. So for the summation of moments, you have your F1 and F2. And, di ba, we talked about earlier that they are acting on the centroid of the shape. Alright? So for your F1, which is the rectangle, so its centroid will be at what? Half of the length, which is half of 6 meters, which is 3. So that is the distance. And then for F2, Okay? For F2, take note, we're referencing, this is what I'm talking about for triangles. We are referencing from point A here, not on B. Okay? So for the triangle, so this is also your point A, right? Which is the lowest point of the height of the triangle. So we will reference the centroid from there, which is 2/3 of the length. So 2/3 of 6 times, of course, the magnitude of its force here, 2010. Okay. Also, take note of the sign convention. This is our point A. All right. So this is your F1 from the rectangle. So if we extend the force, curve it towards the reference clockwise, positive. Also this one, extend clockwise also, positive. Okay? So you just need to substitute and compute this. It will yield 3,330 times D. Okay? Uh, so we're in your 3,330 is your R from earlier. So this one will yield you 12,000 exactly. And so 3,330 times D. Okay? So we just need to solve for the D. We're in this is D sub A. Again, so if you not prefer to write this, if you didn't define the reference point, then you have to write this up to the right of A or from A, something like that. Oh, so this is 3.60. What's the unit? Meters. So don't forget about the unit. This one also. 330. The unit and the label also. If you did not, again, specify from the variable that was used. Okay, so far, are you following? Okay. I hope you're not sleepy yet because I am. I am so sleepy already. Yeah, too many brain cells used already today. Okay, but it's almost time. Wait, just give me a minute to drink my cup of tea. Okay. Okay, so it's the end of this slide. So let's transfer here. So we'll start or we'll begin. By the way, are there any questions, confusions regarding the solving of resultant parallel forces, especially for distributed loads like this? So again, you will need to solve first the area. Okay, so that will be your resultant of that component, or if that's the only figure. So on this sample, trapezoid, so you'll have two forces separate, acting on the rectangle and then acting on the triangle, right? So there you will get your resultant and the direction. And then for the position, you will have to solve for the summation of the moments, force times distance. So again, the distance is their centroid as the reference. Okay? So let's shift into this one. Share this tab. Another one. Okay. Okay, so this is a continuation of the series of modules or lectures for engineering mechanics. So this one will now proceed with the equilibrium of particle and rigid bodies. Okay. So we will now be dealing with equilibrium. So earlier, we were solving for resultant of forces. It means there's a result, like I've said before, if there is a resultant, it means it's a surplus from the equilibrium. Okay? So meaning there will be movement, right? And it's not really static for the rigid body. This time, we will be dealing with equilibrium of a particle and rigid bodies. So either of the two things here, either that body is moving uniformly and under in the influence of equilibrium of forces, or it is in a state of rest or static. Okay, which means all the acting forces on it, the resultant of those forces is zero. Okay, so let's begin this. Although this might just be some introduction since it's about less than 15 minutes before time. So we have free body diagram. So this is what I've mentioned before. So you will need to review or learn again or relearn or refresh your learning about free body diagram. So a free body diagram is a sketch of a body or a portion of a body or two or more bodies completely isolated or free from all other bodies. So meaning if they are let's say part of a larger system, so they will be isolated, for the free body diagram. And also showing the forces exerted by all other bodies on the one being considered. Okay, so although they are somewhat isolated or detached on the drawing, so the forces that are acting on them, especially on those elements that are attached, for example, the surface, another body that is attached to them or applying force to them, so those forces will be considered. Okay, so isolation of a part of a structure and showing the forces acting on it. So that's also another definition for the free body diagram. So its characteristics that you should remember. So number one, it is a diagram or sketch of a body. So not necessarily you need to copy or draw the body exactly as it is. So just a simple diagram or representation or sketch will do. Okay, just make sure also that the lines are straight enough, like this one. Oh yeah, okay. So that's a sample of a straight line. So no ruler used. Okay. So I hope you have some straightening element when you're drawing. Okay. So that you also don't get confused. And also me when I'm checking. Okay. Please don't make it hard for me. All right. Next one. The body is shown completely separated from all other bodies. So that's why it is a free body diagram. Okay. You need a free body, free from other bodies. Okay. And lastly, the action of the body of each body removed in the isolating process is shown as a force or forces of the diagram. So the other bodies that are attached or acting or applying a force on the body being considered will be will not be included, but they will be represented by their forces acting on our subject body, okay, or focused body. Okay, example. So the type of body remove was earth. So you don't need to actually draw the earth every time that you will need to draw the weight, okay, of the body. That will be very time consuming, right? So we just know that if we're talking about the effect of gravity or the weight of the body, so that is because of the earth. Okay. So the action of body remove upon the free body. So that's it. So the pull of the gravity of the earth causes the body to have a weight, okay, or kilogram force or newton, okay. So all those units. So we have another example here. So the type of body remove is a flexible cord. This is the sketch of the system from your real world uh, physical system. Flexible cord, rope, or cable. So that part is this one, the one that's supporting the object from the surface. Let's say this is a ceiling. So this force, this wire, cord, rope, cable, okay? Considering that the weight is neglected, meaning this is a weightless cable, okay? Weightless cable but perfectly fine holding a heavy object. Okay, makes sense, right? Okay, so we're not considering yet the weight of those cords. So we will be considering their weight most likely on your next course, which is deformable. This is what I'm talking about. The weight will be considered once you're already discussing about the deformable bodies. So for now, they are weightless. Okay? So this is the surface. This is also the body being considered. So when you drew the FBD, so the action of body remove upon the free body, so this is it. So this force, which is the tension of the rope, so this was the one considered or represented. Okay, and then it is inclined by a certain angle, no? And this is your body being observed. Okay? So another one, type of body removed. So this is a smooth surface again. So this is your body being observed. It is in contact with the surface here. Okay? So the action of the body removed upon the free body. So upon your drawing is, so this is a smooth surface. Usually they will exert, smooth surface will exert what we call a normal force, N, denoted by N. Okay, normal force, wherein your angle from the vertical, this is very important, your angle from the vertical of your normal force is also equal to the angle, this one, angle of inclination from the horizontal. Okay, so I hope you remember that uh, properties of angles. So, diba, these two are equal angles, but as well as this angle from the horizontal. Because if you rotate it, it will look something like this. This is your N. So, I rotate it this way such that this vertical will become the horizontal. So, this N, this normal force became this one. So, as you can see, the angle is still the theta. Okay? But we seldomly do this rotation. Usually, we just let it like this for free body diagram. So, we just take note of the angle. Okay? So, that is this one. So, the normal force, and then the angle, theta, with respect to the vertical is the same as the angle of inclination here from the horizontal. Okay, next one. So, there are a lot of supports and surfaces and contacts that you can represent using free body diagram. Okay, so some of these are given here. So we have roller support. So when you see on the drawing, your type of support is like this. So it seems like there's a circle there. That's most likely a roller. So a roller support, the action of the body removed from the free body is, for the first sample, so the roller is also exerting somewhat like a normal force, right? And then for this scenario, so there will be an angle here. Okay? So they're somewhat similar with what? Normal force. They're acting or pushing the body. Okay? So again, the angle here uh, from the vertical now will be equal to the angle of inclination. Okay. So some more representations here. You have the type of body remove. So this one is a hinge. So when you see something like this is a hinge. So now this one is different because for a hinge you have what? Two directions of supports or forces. So this time you will have for the action of the body remove on the free body, it's like having what? A component forces na Fx and Fy. Okay? So your support is actually towards here. It's like your hinge is pulling your body on this direction. This is the resultant of the hinge. Let's say H, okay, or F. This is your F. Alright, like just like the tension earlier. You see when you go back to the tension, this one, diba? This rope is like pulling the body or preventing it from falling, something like that. So the same with hinge, only that this time, it's like you're having two ropes here. That's why you have a y component and x component. Okay, so remember that. If the given is a hinge or it's mentioned that the support is a hinge, you will have two component forces already. Okay, so what else do we have? Type of body remove, smooth surface roller support. So roller support here is this one, also this one. So again, roller support gives you a support that is like a what? Normal force. Okay? So perpendicular to the surface here. Also here. See this? Okay. So some more examples here of FBD. So these are both just surfaces, right? I'm not sure if there's support here because it was written here there is okay, frictional force. So there's a frictional force here because as you notice this, for example, this is a ladder. It's preventing from sliding, right? It's preventing from sliding in this direction. It's because there's a frictional force F sub F preventing it. Okay? And then this is a surface, smooth surface. So you'll have a normal force. Also for this one, this is also a surface. So somewhat you'll have also a normal force here. Okay? So don't worry, this is I think the last ones. Okay. Last one. So pin or hinge support. So a pin here, when you see a pin as a support or hinge, so they're the same. So again, you will have two component of forces, the horizontal and the vertical. Okay, so pin and hinge, you have two support forces, one for vertical, one for horizontal. Right. So again, what is this? This is a roller. So this is a roller support. That's why it's like a normal force. Okay? So I hope this is only a review actually. So I hope you get refreshed also how those supports and how the free body diagram is made. All right? So try to do this on your time. Although you can grab already this copy. So draw the FBD of each member of the structure given below. So the structure here has three members, this big roller, this bar, and this bar. Bar AB, bar CD, and roller B here. Okay, so try to draw or recreate this FBD for this support. No, as a review also, try to identify what types of supports are being used here. So I think most are hinges, right? So are there any questions, clarifications, confusions regarding the FBD and also parallel forces today? What will be the next one? Procedures for the solution in equilibrium. Okay, so next meeting, which will be on Wednesday, online. So we will be solving, right? So we will start with the solving process for the equilibrium problems, right? For rigid bodies. Okay, so you will apply FBD and also the resultant of the forces, either moments, summation forces X, summation forces Y. Okay, so I hope you practice or you review how or how to do those processes. No, especially drawing FBD. Drawing FBD is very, very important in this subject. Okay, so if there are no more questions, clarifications, concerns, reminders, no. So I will see you on Wednesday again for our engineering mechanics. So that's 12 to 2. Thank you for attending today and enjoy the rest of